Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting is June 1st, 2010, 7:30. We'll begin with the salute to the flag, please.
This is the Falls Township Governmental Access Channel 22 on Comcast and on Verizon Channel 40. You're about to view the Falls Township Board of Supervisor meeting for June 1st, 2010. This program was pre-recorded earlier for playback at this time.
Thank you. Mrs. Pullen, nice to have you back. You mind taking the roll, please?
Mr. Zupka, Mrs. Vislowski, Mr. Harvey,
Here.
Mr. Vince,
Here.
Mr. Singh.
Here. Okay, I think we've heard from Mr. Zupka that he was under the weather. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. He
Okay.
will not be here tonight.
All right. I think we know Mr. Zupka had told us at our last meeting that Mrs. Vislowski was having some health issues as well, so we not quite sure if she'll be joining us late or if she's coming. And so obviously we wish both of them a speedy trip back to good health, and we'll see them in the future. All right, we'll begin our meeting tonight. Item number 1, Clearwire US LLC conditional use hearing at 65 MY Lane. We've had quite a few of these recently as Clearwire is looking to build a network to do wireless internet. Taking some of your thunder, Mr. Talvacchia, sorry.
No problem.
We'll begin a conditional use hearing, well, I guess with a motion first, correct, Mr. Clark?
That's correct.
All right, is there a motion to open the conditional use hearing?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Very well. We'll open up the hearing. Mr. Clark, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No problem.
This is a conditional use hearing. The applicant is Clearwire US LLC. The property is tax parcel number 13-28-74, which is located in the Township of Falls, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. This is an application requesting conditional use to allow the co-location of one 12-inch diameter microwave dish antenna on an existing monopole located at 65 MY Lane. The applicant is represented by Nicholas Talvacchia, Esquire. Mr. Talvacchia, you have been before the board several times in the last several months, and you know that it is the policy of this board for conditional use applications, especially those involving co-location. If you could introduce the application, give a brief background, identify your exhibits, then identify any of the witnesses who you would call, give a summary of what their testimony would be, ask them to come forward and to indicate whether or not they heard the summary that you had just given and if they agreed with that summary, and then to make yourself available, you and your witnesses available for questionings from members of the board and any members of the public who may request party status.
Great, thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Nick Talvacchia, the law firm of Cooper Levinson on behalf of Clearwire US LLC. Good evening. We are here seeking conditional use approval to install a 1-foot dish on an existing 150-foot tower. As you may know from our previous hearings, sometimes all we need to have is one dish in order for Clearwire to be able to provide wireless internet service. They operate under the name Clear. You may have heard of them. They're operating now in this area. Because of the existing antennas at the site by Sprint, we're able to utilize much of the existing equipment, and by adding this one dish, which has line of sight with another dish, we're able to provide the data necessary to provide wireless internet in this area. So our application, again, is just for a 1-foot dish at elevation of 149 feet, which is just below the top of the tower. For the record, this matter was heard by the Planning Commission on 4/15/10 and received a positive recommendation. In our application, which is dated August 17th of 2009, we did submit copies of our in addition to the application, the site plan, electromagnetic emissions analysis, dated August 16th, a copy of our lease, a copy of our FCC license, and I don't know if we can deem those be part of the record because they were submitted. I do have copies of some of those materials. What I didn't submit at that time was the structural analysis. I did provide that today to your engineer, and I'd like to offer that into the record. It's dated July 21, 2009, prepared by Tower Company, which Vertical Solutions, which indicates that the tower will have sufficient structural capacity to support this 1-foot dish. With me is Fran Green, who is a Pennsylvania licensed engineer. And Fran, do we have an exhibit that we can show the board? Oh, I'm sorry. This is what was shown in the application. Again, an existing 150-foot monopole. We're adding a 1-foot dish at the 149 feet. We're going to use the existing equipment shelter. We're going to run some new cabling, use the existing bridge, and that's it. Fran, if you can come up here and be sworn.
I do.
And for the record, Fran, you're a Pennsylvania licensed engineer.
Yes, I am.
Have you testified before this board before?
I've testified before Falls Township, but I'm not sure if I've testified before this board before, though.
Okay. But you've been qualified before.
Yes.
Mr.
think
Tuck,
there-
you both need to use.
Yeah, there is a second microphone. Sorry, I didn't realize the second microphone was there.
Is this working? How's that?
There you go.
Fran, you heard my recitation of what we're proposing here. Is that accurate?
Yes.
1-foot parabolic dish?
Yes.
149 feet?
Yes.
Cabling and some additional electronics within the existing equipment shelter?
Yes.
Anything else we're proposing?
No.
I have no further questions of this witness. I think you're familiar with our previous... This dish is a part of a much wider network, and it needs to be here in order for the whole system to work. Is that accurate, Fran?
Yes.
All right. That completes our presentation. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right, just for point of reference for those people wondering where 65 MY Lane is, if you're familiar with the superhighway as you're heading toward Trenton, or if you're heading toward Marsville and maybe stopping up at Snipes Farm, this is the very large monopole that's off on the right-hand side opposite of Route 1 of the superhighway from where the Snipes property is, which looks like a large tree. That's essentially what we're looking at here. Right? Thanks, Tiff. So that's just to give people an idea of where the geographic location here. I don't have any questions at this time. Mr. Snipes, any questions or comments?
Just going to comment that that tree is, I believe, thanks to Phil Zupka.
That's right. You're right. I
he
forgot
was
about that.
Particularly interested in the stealth technology to clearly make this pole look like a redwood somewhere from California. Just looking at the electromagnetic emissions analysis, I know people are concerned about this sometimes. This is a report from DBM Engineering. Says, to date, there have been no credible studies conducted whose results showed evidence of any adverse health effects at the above exposure limits. Could you say anything about the exposure limits and how they fall within what's recommended or identified as not harmful?
In this report dated August 16, 2009 by DBM, this installation with the other existing equipment will have an exposure level that is 900 times less than the FCC limits at all locations of public access. So 900 times below what it could be.
Okay, thank you. Approximately how many other facilities are located on this tower at this point?
Fran, if you could answer that.
I believe there are 4.
And up to how many could be located on it eventually?
That I don't know. You'd have to talk to the tower owner about that.
Yeah, they would have to do an additional structural analysis to see. It's hard for us to know who's, needs to be there and not. Couldn't tell you off the top of our heads.
But we assume that the tower can hold 4 at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, those are the only questions I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
I have no questions.
Okay, I know the area, I saw one of the comments in one of the review letters about the plantings, the screening around there, not being viable. I'm not quite sure what that meant. Does that mean the trees are not in good shape anymore, Mr. Sullivan? Is that what that means? I'm looking for it now. The April 8th, second page, 209-50.2 D11.
Yeah, I believe that means that most of the vegetation is dead.
Okay. So what is the zoning code says it has to be, sort of, have to have that vegetative screening. Is that correct?
Yes, it's probably more appropriate that code enforcement department issues a letter to the owner of the
Right,
property.
it'd be the owner, not so much but Mr. Tavaki. I just wanted to, it is an area it's light industrial. There isn't a whole lot of regular traffic that goes back there. There's a facility that does landscaping, mulching, that kind of thing near there. So it's not something that gets a regular amount of commuter traffic. But those are all the questions I had. It's very straightforward, and we're used to the presentation by now, Mr. Tavaki. So I don't have any other comments or questions. Mr. Clark, anything from you?
No, Mr. Chairman.
No? Mr. Sullivan?
Mr. Talbacchio, you are in receipt of the Township Engineers Review Letter dated April 8th, 2010.
I have December 30th. I'm not sure I saw the April 8th letter. Is that,
Other than the landscape screening and the dust-free parking area, I assume that all those will comply after you get a chance to review it.
I have my engineer 1 second. We should, I'm sure we'll have no problem with it.
While we're waiting, Mr. Gray, anything from you regarding this project?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
I believe the dust-free issue came up at the Planning Commission, and we argued against it given our limited impact of one dish and its location, and we had asked for a consideration, well, by the Planning Commission, that we get a waiver from that. We would ask you for that. We think at this location, to kind of asphalt that or something like, makes really no sense, given the limited amount of traffic there and its location.
Well, once again, the board can agree that it's an existing non-conforming condition,
Okay.
rather than trying to grant a waiver to something from
true.
the zoning ordinance.
That's yes.
Okay. All right. And everything else, Mr. Talbacchio, is okay?
Everything else is fine.
Okay.
Other than that, we would ask for that one determination of prior existing condition.
Okay.
And the screening will be handled through the Code Enforcement Department.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right.
Is this an extra copy for me?
You can have that.
Thank you.
Okay. So I don't know if there's any public comment needed, but we'll close the conditional use hearing.
Public comment.
We get to close the hearing first, before we can go to that. Yeah. Mr. Clark, it's correct to closing the conditional use hearing before we take public comment? Is that correct? Okay. All right then. So Mr. Tavaki, you said your presentation is finished?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, and we've had our questions here. So we'll have a motion to close the conditional use hearing at this time.
So moved.
Seconded?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and we'll have a motion to open public comment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And ma'am?
Which one is live?
Doesn't matter. I think either one.
I shut this one off.
Is that one off? All right, just use the other one.
Okay,
Nope.
thank you. I just have one question. Is that by any chance the big tower of Route 1 business?
Yes.
Well, do you know that you are interfering with my pursuit of happiness, which is guaranteed by the United States, whatever you call it. Anyways, it interferes with my FM reception, and anybody that lives around there doesn't get any FM stations. So what what else will it do?
I can address that if I give me an opportunity.
Yeah.
The equipment, and we can have my engineer discuss this.
Yeah, Mr. Tell, I just want to clarify something. This, ma'am, the tower we're talking about here is not the one
Right
right near.
off Route 1.
No. This is the one further down by New Jersey.
Oh, okay, that's different.
Okay,
That's
all right.
different, okay. That is the one that has completely blacked us out.
Okay.
And if I get, if I go by with my car radio, I usually listen to HYY or any one of
Okay.
those PBS stations. There is a Christian broadcast, goes over 6 channels. And that's a little bit too much. I have complained about it, but nothing has happened about it.
Okay. All right.
So that has been an ongoing thing ever since that big tower went up.
Okay. All right, yeah, that's this, you're talking about the one just close to the township building. Yeah, this.
it's close to Route 1 business.
All right, yeah, the tower they're talking about is further, closer to
Oh,
New
that is
Jersey.
further away, so.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
FCC.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, sure, and I get an answer from that. I did that.
All right.
I did. A nice one, too.
All right, any other public comment? See no hands. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, so we've heard the presentation, we've had board comment, as well as from professionals' input and some public comment. Looking to approve the Clearwire US LLC conditional use hearing, 65 MY Lane, recognizing the pre-existing condition of the roadways leading to the tower facility. Is that a pretty good way of putting it? Okay. Without,
There are two sections, 209-50.2D5 and 209-50.2D11, which are both pre-existing conditions, and therefore the applicant does not need to comply with those sections.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, which are those? One was,
Trees and the dust-free drive.
Right.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, the trees were the issue of the dead screen
Right,
around
that's
the...
something that we're going to handle with the actual owner of the
Okay.
property, not so much with, Mr. Talvaki's firms. It's just, or a company he's representing, it's just going to be leasing space on the tower. They're not necessarily responsible for the actual upkeep of the facility. That's the owner of the property's responsibility. So we're going to handle that by going after the owner,
Okay.
not necessarily the people renting space. So, all right, so a motion to grant the conditional use, recognizing the pre-existing conditions, 209, 52D5, 209, 52D11, I believe are the two zoning articles that Mr. Clark referenced. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second the motion?
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Here, yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, gentlemen. Sure. Okay, item number 2, GTS Welco Incorporated waiver of land development, 1 Steel Road East. Mr. Gray.
Yes, thank you. As mentioned, this is a waiver of land development, GTS Welco. They are located at 1 Steel Road East, tax map parcel 13-47-142. Tonight, representing the applicant is Mr. William Reardon.
I'm here.
Hi, how are you? So just give us, if you don't mind, just a brief rundown, I guess maybe on what the company does, and what exactly, it's a very small addition you're putting on, just to give us an idea of the size and the purpose for the addition itself,
Okay.
and any kind of steps you're taking to meet the requirements of the Falls Township codes.
Okay. With me this evening, in case you have any specific questions about the facility, I have Lou Luber, representative of GTS Welco. Formerly the MG Industry, they fill the gas cylinders. The addition that we are proposing is a small addition. It's 2,400 square feet. It's located in the front portion of the property. It's to expand a small workshop and storage area to try to help with the efficiency of their operations internally. So it's not intended to increase the manufacturing or et cetera on site. The plans we had submitted to the township back in March. They were reviewed by the engineer in April. We were before the Planning Commission on April 15th. We had a very lengthy discussion regarding an existing 30-inch pipe located below the proposed addition. Subsequent to that meeting, we had some discussions with the township engineer. We decided to relocate that pipe, and that is now shown on these plans to be relocated around that addition. In addition to that change, there are a number of other comments that Jim had developed in his letter. We've gone through an extensive revision of the plans to comply with a majority of those issues. There's a few that remain that have been identified in Jim's latest letter, dated May 26th, that do require some waiver from the ordinance. Most of it is due to the existing conditions of the site as a result of the previous development that was there. First one is related to the existing parking facilities. When the plan was originally designed, it was designed with 9-foot by 19-foot spaces and 24-foot drive aisles, which is less than the 10 by 20 and 25 of the current code. Given that we're not expanding the facility to require any additional parking, we're not making any modifications to it. It's an existing condition. It appears to function properly, requesting a waiver of that section of the ordinance. The other aspect is relative to overlap of information around the property. We've provided a very detailed survey in and around the area where the actual facility is being constructed to make sure that any utilities or any conditions are identified so that the construction can proceed accurately. We're asking for a waiver of the 200-foot that surrounds the entire property, given the small scope of the improvements that we're proposing. And the last item is related to the pipe relocation. The existing pipe is located at relatively a minimum slope at 0.5%, and due to the relocation, the pipe actually lengthens, but we're connecting to 2 fixed points. So we are now proposing a pipe that is less than 0.5%, but we've done an analysis, provide that to Jim's office to demonstrate that adequate capacity is still being provided to convey the flows that are getting to that pipe under current conditions. And the last item is that we still need a letter from the Conservation District to proceed with construction. Those plans have been submitted. We've spoken to them today. It's under review, so we hope to get that letter soon.
Okay. All right, we'll have comments and questions from board members. Mr. Snipes?
I may have missed some of what you were saying about stormwater management. Mr. Sullivan, any concerns? I know it's a small addition, but any increase of impervious surface obviously creates more water runoff. Any concerns, or is what they're proposing adequate?
I have no concerns. What they're proposing is adequate.
Okay. And the comment from, in terms of the waiver, I guess, around the parking space issues and circulation, there's no concern from traffic planning and design around that, from what I see, and no concern from the fire marshal. Is that correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
Yes. Okay. And then the other comment from the Planning Commission about landscaping on the new portion of the building, they simply say section 209-29.G4 of the zoning ordinance requires landscaping of all improved sections of the property not occupied by buildings or paving.
Right. As part of the revisions that we had resubmitted, we did an inventory of what was out there. We've added that to the plans to demonstrate compliance with that requirement.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
No, I have no other questions. Mr. Snipes covered it pretty much.
Okay. And I'm just looking at the resolution we have a draft of here, making sure it matches what the review letter says. But yeah, obviously it's a very small addition. You've taken into account the stormwater issue. I think the Planning Commission was right to bring up the point. And obviously, you don't want to build an addition on top of an area where you have a stormwater pipe. What if you need access to it? What do you do then? Hopefully, you'll never have to dig it up. But
right.
it's better to be safe than sorry. But in terms of that, if Mr. Sullivan doesn't have any issues with it, and I have no problem letting the existing parking areas, you said you're not really adding to the staff at the facility, just sort of increase the efficiency.
That's correct.
Okay, so that's not really an issue. And obviously, you've been operating for however long with the current driveway or 24-foot wide.
Correct. And that's the internal driveways. The accesses that go to the street actually do meet township requirements.
Okay. All right. So I had no problem with that either. Okay. Is there any public comment needed? I see no hands. Okay. So, Mr. Sullivan, any issues from you?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, Resolution 1013. All right. Would grant the waivers for parking as well as topographic features and the minimum pipe slope to GTS Wellco. If it's approved. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 1013?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 1013.
I'll second it.
Okay, and I guess one thing I did want to check, I forgot, actually, one issue in terms of the letter from Bucks County Conservation District, Mr. Sullivan, they would not be able to move forward until they get that, correct? So we don't have to take any action on that?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, so a motion has been made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, item 3 on our agenda is consider authorizing notice of intent to award 2010 road program, the Mill and Overlay Project. Mr. Gray?
Yes, the 2010 road improvement program includes the mill and overlay portion consisting of 10 roads. They include Buck Drive, Durham Court, Raleigh Way, Blue Spruce Lane, Briar Root Lane, Black Pine Lane, Barberry Lane, Buttonwood Lane, Birch Drive, and Boulder Lane. TNM Engineers has reviewed the bid submitted to the township and publicly opened on May 26, 2010. Of the 6 bids received, the lowest bidder was General Asphalt Paving Company in the amount of $346,788.80. TNM has recommended that the Board of Supervisors authorize the Township Engineers Office to issue a notice of intent to award to General Asphalt Paving for the bid cost of $346,788.80.
Okay. All right, just to review the roads that Mr. Gray mentioned, I think you can also see those on the website, correct?
Yes, they are on the website, yes.
All right, so the roads are also on the website. The roads are going to be done, if you're curious. Those roads are being milled and overlay, which essentially does not mean they're being totally reconstructed. They were reconstructed in the past, new drainage to curbs, et cetera, but a lot of these roads were done back when the road program first started, and so some of the asphalt is starting to break up a little bit and having some problems, and so this would just scrape off that top layer of asphalt and put down a new layer. It's a much easier process, and for the number of roads that you heard Mr. Gray mention, obviously, to come in at roughly $347,000 is a much cheaper process than a total full-depth reconstruction that we've been doing for a while. We'll take comments and questions from board members first. Mr. Snipes, comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for Mr. Sullivan. There's a difference of about $150,000 between the lowest bid and the high bid. Do you have any comment on why there would be such a difference?
It's fairly typical to have that kind of range between low and high. The difference between the first 2 bidders is some $20,000. That's pretty typical as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
No questions or comments.
All right, and this would begin, awarding this tonight would begin roughly a 30-day review period that would give the, would give you the chance to take a look at General Asphalt Paving to make sure that they're a responsible contractor that we could award this project to with a kind of a clear conscience. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So that's all the question I had. Any public comment? I see no hands. Okay, is there a motion then to award General Asphalt Paving Company with the 2010 Mill and Overlay Improvement Project?
Mr. Harvey, it's a notice of intent.
Notice of intent to award, I'm sorry. Notice of intent to award to General Asphalt $346,788.80 for the 2010 Road Improvement Program Mill and Overlay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is consider approval of a Falls Township Senior Center lease agreement. Mr. Gray?
Yes, an agreement between the township and the Falls Township Senior Center has been prepared. This year, the township has been reviewing many of its agreements between the township and some of the other companies or groups that we've been working with and updating our agreements. The last agreement was prepared for the township and the senior center in 1982. This term commences, if agreed tonight, it would end on December 31st, 2015. The annual rent for this is $1 per year, and the premises shall be used by the senior citizen group for recreational, charitable, celebratory, social, and education and scientific purposes. At this time, the board is asked to consider this lease agreement between the township and the Falls Senior Center.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Snipes?
All of a sudden, I'm thinking about the insurance. How are we covered, or how are they covered with insurance?
They have their own policy that they have for all the contents of the building, and we cover the building itself.
So we're covering the liability and
Yeah.
for injury in the building.
Yes. If there's any type of theft, they have their own policy that they have, that they pay for.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, where are we with possibilities of renovations to the building, I guess I'd put it?
Mr. Gray, I believe there was a meeting between the architects and the senior center last week?
Yeah,
week before?
last Friday, about 10 days ago, we had a meeting with both groups. We met and we shared some information on both sides. So the architects are going to go back and come up with some plans based on some of the information provided. We should probably regroup in a few weeks.
Okay. And I believe the ideas that were raised this time were sort of on a smaller scale than the original ideas from a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Dents?
I just want to, one of the reasons we redid this lease is because they came to us with questions about what they can do and can't do because of the wording in the original lease, correct?
Yes. And there were some other items that were included in this lease agreement. The township, going forward, will cut the grass and also plow the parking lot for the snow.
That's all I had.
Okay. Yeah, so I was going to bring up those changes as well, so thank you for doing that. All right. And as Mr. Excuse me, Mr. Gray said, this is one of the things he's doing as manager is starting to take a look at some leases we've had with different organizations and people even within this building whose leases have not really been updated or looked at very much, and making sure that they're more up to date. As he said, the last time this lease was done for the senior center was 1982, and so it's good every once in a while to take a look at these leases, make sure they're still applicable, make sure they're still, current, and both parties are represented fairly. So, any comments or questions, public? See your hands or motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Which one are we using?
Either one. That's what's
Either
fine.
one?
Yeah.
Okay. I came at a good time. I just made it. The leases that we're talking about with other organizations concerning the senior center, I thought the senior center went out.
No. By other organizations, what I mean is that the last meeting we redid our lease with Three Arches. We've done other updates of leases of some of the tenants in this building. Those are the kinds of leases I was talking about. The only people leasing this property is the senior center. This is just updating the lease that they have with us for that building.
This is at the corner of Trenton Road
Yes.
and Levittown Parkway,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So we lease it to them, and then they can lease it out to anybody they want. Is that correct?
They can rent out they can rent it out
Rent it out.
for parties and things like that. If someone wants to rent the space, they can do that. Yes.
Have we decided whether or not we're going to add that big expansion?
Well, that was one of the things we just mentioned. Mr. Snipes asked about it, and the architects have been meeting or met a few weeks ago with the people from the senior center, raising some new ideas which are not as large in terms of scope as what was talked about a couple of years ago. So we're looking at some renovations, but nothing like what you're thinking of from a couple of years ago.
I'd like to ask Mr. Gray if I can come in sometime and look at what had been discussed. Is that a possibility, or do I have to wait for that for a couple
Well,
of
I
months?
think at this point it's just ideas that are being discussed by the senior centers themselves. We don't have anything, we haven't seen anything. So what we'll have in the future, once we have some kind of concept, we'll have public meetings where people can have some say, and even people from the senior center can have some say about what they think, and we'll move forward from there. But right now, it's ideas just sort of how many rooms they need, of just some in terms of spaces, storage areas, that kind of thing.
Wouldn't it be better if we asked the senior center group how many places or how many situations they have turned down that they could have rented the facility out before we go ahead and try and build, extend, refurbish, or whatever the senior center? I mean, the last time we almost doubled the size and tripled the price, and we still got the one down there that is, I think they built that in 1951, and it looks pretty shabby right now. I thought maybe we'd dump that out if they're going to build another one, but I just can't see spending the money at this time. And I'd still like to be able to see, you said you discussed, Mr. Gray said he discussed things with them. Well, what's been discussed? When is that going to be available for the public to look at?
And once we have something something concrete that we can look at, we haven't seen anything either,
Okay.
but right now it's just discussions about possibilities.
Okay. Well, I'll have to sit and wait. Delay, defer, forget about it, and everybody won't know what's going on.
Well, if you want, Mr. Obert, you can go down to the senior center and ask them their thoughts. I mean, they're the ones who are telling us what they think they need. So
I joined the senior center, but I'm not old enough. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
let me just see if there's any other public comments or no. Okay, motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Second.
This is on the senior center issue, Mr. Smith. Okay, yeah. All right. Motion made and seconded. Did someone second it?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Yes. Aye. Okay. All right, Mr. Smith.
I was just going to comment, Mr. Obert asked about the subleasing, and Section 16 of the lease says, lessee, that's the center, agrees not to sublease the premises without first obtaining lessor's written consent. The lessor, of course, is the township.
Right.
Lessee's interest in this lease is not assignable, so they can't turn it over to somebody else.
Right.
That's basically it.
Right.
There were questions about that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for looking that up very fast there. All right, so we're looking at a new lease agreement with the senior center, which will extend until the end of 2015. Is there a motion to approve the new senior center lease agreement?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
All right, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, next item on agenda number 5, consider purchase of laptop computers for the police department. Mr. Gray.
Yes, the police department is requesting to purchase 6 mobile laptop computers. The cost of the laptops is $19,305.36. This amount has been budgeted in the 2010 budget, and these laptops are on the co-stars list. The board is asked to consider the purchase of 6 mobile laptops for $19,305.36 from Hub Data 911. In addition, Sergeant Harvey Taylor is here from the police department to discuss and answer any questions the board may have.
All right, thank you. Okay, so, all right. All right, so Sergeant Taylor, if you wouldn't mind just coming forward and giving us a brief rundown. I know Mr. Gray gave us a little bit, but why you talk about some of the current computers we have, and what's the need for these? How long do we expect they're going to last? What's the general use for them?
Okay, what we have here is every police car, well, not every police car, but 18. We have 18 of these Data 911 computers in police cars. The first, prior to having the Data 911s, we had a different. I didn't remember what the brand was, maybe SciComm or something like that. But it's a ruggedized computer designed to operate in a mobile environment. They didn't work well at all. They were constantly down. They needed to be replaced. At a show in 2004, we saw these Data 911 systems demonstrated. They were in use mainly out in the West Coast. The biggest user in the East Coast back in 2004 was the New Jersey State Police. So what we did to try those was we purchased 3 of those systems in September of 2004. They ran flawlessly for us. None of the issues that we ran into with the older computers came to light in these. So what we did is we had these first 3, and then in May of 2005 we purchased 3 more. Those 2 ran flawlessly for us. They did everything that we needed them to do. So then over the next several years, all the way up until June of 2008, we phased out the older SciComm computers and we replaced them all with these Data 911 systems. They've performed flawlessly. We have some are mounted in glove boxes, some are mounted in the trunks of the cars. They perform in temperatures from in the trunks of the cars could get ungodly, probably in the 160-degree range to below, to whatever the outside temperature is in the middle of the winter. That's what they're designed to do. We have next to no problems with them at all, and when we do, we have to ship them back to Data 911, which is the same with any of these systems, if you go with a Panasonic or any of those. Anyway, the main reason that we have to replace these 6 is these 6 are Pentium 3 700s, and they just no longer have the power to operate the hardware. Mainly, we use a air card to receive our data in the cars, and they no longer have the power to run the current air cards that we've upgraded to. They're G3 and G4 technology. Only 6 of these computers are the 700 Pentium 3s. The newer ones that we've purchased since then are all 1.5 gigahertz Pentium 4 processors. They still perform okay with the systems that with the way we use it, but eventually they're going to have to be phased out too. So what I'm proposing is we replace the 6 Pentium 3 700s with the newest computers that they have out there. I don't know whether you have the quote in front of you, but the newest ones are now, I believe they're Core 2 Duo 2.2 gigahertz with 2 gigs of RAM, 60 gig hard drives. The hard drive space is not an issue to us. Mainly we need the RAM and the processor speed. Again, the only reason these 6 systems really need to be replaced, even considering they're up to almost 6 years old, is the fact that they just don't have the power to run what we want to run. They still run flawlessly. If we ran the software and the hardware that we ran 6 years ago in these computers, they'd be running fine. But that's just not the case. So that's what my proposal is to phase out these 6 systems, replace them with the newer models. And unfortunately, I'm going to be proposing that we start phasing out the other ones in the following years.
Okay. All right. Okay. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Snipes?
Basically answered all the questions I was going to ask. Is this the expected life? But I guess 6 years, but I guess that depends on the development of software and where things go.
It would mainly depend on, you're right, hardware and software. These ones mainly are now the hardware. We're having a problem with the USB ports in the newest air cards in these the Pentium 3 systems. They just weren't designed to handle that type of data through the USB port and the processing power that it needs. But again, I don't know anybody here that gets 6 years out of a computer. You show me one you have at home that you got 6 years out of, and I'll be really surprised. And these things are bouncing around in a police car 24 hours a day. We've had 2 where they've mounted them in the trunk, the car's been rear-ended and totaled, and we took the computer out, mounted it right in another car, and it's running. We can't argue with the way these things perform. There's no doubt that they're costly, but I don't think they're any more costly than the other ruggedized systems that are out there.
Right.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
No, Mr. Sergeant Harvey pretty much covered it.
Taylor.
I have nothing. Oh, Taylor, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I apologize.
Not a problem.
The only question I would have, because I appreciate you being here this evening and going through it very thoroughly with us, and obviously you did a lot of work on this. In terms of, you talked about having to send them back. This is a company that's very good. We send them something that comes back to us. What are the warranties like? I guess
the warranty is a 3-year warranty on the systems. They offer a 1-year warranty, but for purchases of them, they upgrade us automatically to 3 years.
Okay.
And then we purchase the ones that are out of warranty over 3 years. We purchase a yearly warranty on those, and they don't say anything to us. They just ask me to try to diagnose the problem first before we send it back.
Right.
Because not only is there a computer in the car, there's wiring and a monitor and a keyboard, and sometimes it's not in the computer itself. I could send that back, they don't find a problem.
Right.
But over the 6 years, we've learned to work together pretty well, and we've got that down. And to tell the truth, I bet you over 6 years and 18 computers, I haven't sent back a computer more than 8, total 8 times of different computers, not one computer 8
Right.
times, but I haven't had them in 8 times for repairs the whole time. These things have been pretty flawless.
Well, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, thank you very much. Just to hang out in case anybody has any is there any public comment or questions for Sergeant Taylor? No? Okay. Sergeant, thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. We've had board comment, and there's no public comment, so we're looking at the purchase of the 6 mobile laptop computers through the CoStar's list, and this is in the amount of $19,305.36. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded?
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. right, item 6, consider approval of lieutenant employment contract. Mr. Gray?
Yes, recently Henry Ward was promoted to the rank of lieutenant. An employment agreement for Lieutenant Ward and Falls Township commencing May 20th, 2010 and ending December 31st, 2012 has been prepared. This agreement prepared is similar to the other current lieutenants, Lieutenant Pletnick and Lieutenant Airy. The board is asked to consider approval of this employee agreement at this time.
Okay, very well. We've had, over the past few years, we've been shifting things around through retirements and personnel in the police department moving on to other municipalities for different jobs. Lieutenant McPherson is now the chief in Upper Southampton, correct? Yeah. And Lieutenant Cloud, who was here for a very long time, a very good police officer, retired just a few months ago. And so Lieutenant Airy was appointed a few weeks ago, and Lieutenant Ward now is our newest lieutenant in connection and also working together with Lieutenant Pletnick, who's been 2 years now, I guess?
Yeah, 2008, yes.
Yeah, okay, and of course Chief Wilcox. And I imagine there's comments or questions. Obviously, we don't want to get into with personnel issue here with the employment agreement, but I don't know if there's any comments or questions at this time from board members.
None, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, then. Don't imagine there's any public comment for this either. Is there a motion then to to approve, rather, the employment contract for employment agreement for Lieutenant Henry Ward?
So moved.
Seconded?
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Zins?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're up to public comment. Mr. Gray is getting the list for us. Thank you. A couple of names on the list. All right, first name. Need a break or something?
Just for a minute.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a short break before we continue.
Has recessed the meeting. The chairman has recessed the meeting. This is Falls Township Governmental Access Channel 22 on Comcast, 40 on Verizon.
Okay, we'll call our meeting back to order about 25 after 8. We have two names on our list this evening. First one, Gallus Obert.
Good evening again, gentlemen, ladies. Mr. Sullivan, you can breathe easy. I'm not going to ask you a thing about the boat ramp, okay? But I am going to ask what's going on with the sidewalks. So you want me to read my 4 items and then you answer them?
Well, I can tell you now, we're going to have, at our next meeting, I was going to announce this later anyway, but at our next meeting, 2 weeks from tonight, we're going to have traffic planning and design. They're the ones who did the survey, and they're the ones who did the concept plans for the sidewalk on, the one on New Falls Road, I'm assuming is what you're talking about, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. They're going to be here 2 weeks from tonight doing a presentation. We're not going to be voting on it at that time. It's purely for informational purposes and allowing people to see what their concepts are and have some input. And then, the board will make a decision at some point, over the summer about if we're going to do any of those options, if we're not going to do it, and we'll make a decision from there. But obviously, the board has paid traffic planning and design to put together a plan for us and some ideas, and we want to share those with the people of the township. So that'll be our next meeting.
Okay. How much money are we paying for this survey get-together,
What was
Mr. Gray?
well, this is, I think it's included in the original cost we did in terms of, do you remember off the top of your head, Mr. Gray, how much traffic planning and design got for coming up with the concept plan? I don't. It's several months ago.
$40-some thousand.
47, between 45 and 50, I think, something like that. Between 45 and 50,000 to
45 and
do
50.
everything. I mean, that's the surveying, that's the plans themselves, that's the meeting they'll be coming to. So,
Okay. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, how are we doing with the dredging between Chatham Road and South Old Boulevard? How are we doing with our get-together with the county to get them to do it?
I don't know if we've had any communication with the county yet about that.
We have not had any communication recently with the county about this. A few years ago we did, and there's been no movement since then.
Didn't go very well.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's been I think 2 months since a man came up and brought it to our attention, and the engineer just said we haven't had any communications with the county. So I guess what you're really saying is we haven't done anything. Is that correct?
Yeah, we haven't. We have to sit. We're going to be. We haven't sat down yet with the county. You're right.
When are we going to do something with the county?
I'm going to be. Well,
I'm going to say that there's no point in sitting down with the county until we know what we want.
okay.
I'm not sure that dredging is the solution to the problem, Mr. Obert.
The dredging to the solution is not for where the kids walk, but to get rid of the flooding that takes place because they didn't dredge it in the first place.
The problem is that there is no slope between one end of the ditch and the other. And I believe the outlet of the ditch is lower than the inlet into Lake Caroline, which is why dredging won't necessarily solve the problem that we have right there.
Gee, when that was designed, all the water ran from that far end of between Chatham and South Olds, ran all the way down to Olds or Queen Anne Drive, and now all of a sudden it's higher. I don't think we made the bridge any higher.
No, but I'm sure that there's been changes made to that outlet at Queen Anne. I know that. You know better than I because I haven't been here as long as you have, but I can tell you right now that it doesn't work.
Well, how are we going to solve the possible problem of West Nile virus because the water is not going where it's supposed to go? The drawings I had here on the wall showed that there were 5 outlets, stormwater outlets, that took all their water from Pennsbury High School, went across the street and into that area. And now you're telling me it's not going to go anywhere. Gentlemen, something's got to be done.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Sullivan, who would be the person at the county, I'm assuming, aside from the commissioners, I'm thinking, who would be the person at the county that you would best sit down with? Who's your opposite number, basically, that you would sit down with? Do they have an engineering firm that represents the county, or is it?
I don't think they have a specific engineering firm that represents the county. I believe they hire consultants on an as-needed basis.
Okay. All right, so as of now, there really isn't anybody you could sort of reach out to and say, we need to come down here and take a look at this and...
Not engineer to engineer, no, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we have to go upwards then from there. So, okay. I'll have a conversation with someone, one of the county commissioners at least, maybe two of them, and see what exactly we can do in terms of who we talk to, who can sit down, who can talk with our engineer about this, who can they send out to take a look at this, and that's that's probably the next step in terms of starting to solve this.
Well,
but you're right. It's we've dropped the ball on this one a little bit for the past couple of weeks.
Try the past couple of months. Okay, try past couple of years, because I spoke here in one of these meetings 2 years ago, and it said the same thing, and guess what? Same thing. Nothing happened. It wasn't designed that way. All the water flows that way. Gentlemen, you got to fix it. I don't care if you fix Queen Anne Bridge and make it go lower. Fix it. It's a swamp. Okay? And all those drains, and you might as well just plug them up and let the water stay there on South Olds Boulevard like it used to be. Nobody wants to do anything. Okay? That's a no. Okay? How much have we spent on architect's fees for the senior center for the past 2, 3, 4, 5 plans that we have? Do we have an idea on that?
I can tell you.
Mr. Sullivan?
$10,000.
That goes back, 2 years or so,
Yes.
correct? Yeah.
10,000.
That was for the first 3 concepts.
Okay.
They were done.
Okay. And the last one. The quarry on Penn Valley Road on the far side of Route 13. I think they're filling that quarry in. My question is, I guess they have a permit to fill it in, but what are they filling it in with, and who's watching the store? They could fill it in with garbage for all we know.
Right. I think that issue comes up periodically. It's people that have brought this issue up before, and I believe they're underneath their mining permit, correct, Mr.
They have a
Sullivan?
mining permit, and they are under the jurisdiction of the DEP.
Okay.
So if I want to find out anything, I got to go to DEP.
They're the ones who have the jurisdiction, and they are operating underneath an active permit that they've had for a while.
Okay. Can I ask Mr. Sullivan if he could supply me with a name and a number that I could call?
From
Because
DEP?
it
Do you
would be
know
easier
someone?
for him to do that, give me that
Okay.
name and number.
We'll find somebody.
All right.
Okay, find a link.
Okay.
Gee whiz, I don't have any more.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
It's all right. Okay. Next name on the list is Mark Smith.
I have a couple of questions regarding the 2010 road improvement project. After I took a drive through the Pinewood section, I'm looking at the previous road improvement project over there. I had noticed that it appeared that all of the driveways in that neighborhood, about a third of the driveways were cut, and it looks like the driveway was removed and replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be the case in the Pennsbury Heights section for our 2010 project?
I don't know if we know that as of yet. The reason that was done, and it's been done at a lot of roads, is that over the years, when new layers of concrete or asphalt were put on top, the road got steadily higher. Because what we did when we came along in terms of reconstructing it was taking it down sort of like to a more sort of original height, and then a lot of the driveways had to be adjusted so that you weren't you had a normal sort of a slope going up. It doesn't always happen. Do we know yet if that's going to happen in the Pennsbury Heights area?
Well, if we end up replacing all the aprons, I'm sure that we're going to have some kind of driveway adjustment for every driveway, whether it's 1 foot or as many as 6 feet, depending on what we do to the road. Yes.
Okay.
Now, can that be left up to the residents to decide whether they want that done or not? I mean, if we're just talking about a slope, or is that a requirement? I don't know.
If we change the slope of the road, we're probably going to change the slope of the apron and therefore the slope of the driveway. So we would have to adjust the driveway to meet all the slopes.
I mean, as a resident, would I be able to say, no, I don't want that done to my driveway? I'll live with the slope the way it is.
I would say sure. But, I mean, I'll talk to you about it first before we actually decided that, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I guess the risk is sort of, depending what kind of vehicle you have, you could be damaging the undercarriage if you're coming up the apron and there's a significant difference in slope from what your grade is right now. That's the concern.
That's understood, because that's the way the aprons were before I had mine replaced.
Right.
The other thing is, do we know if General Asphalt is going to be doing the work in the Pennsbury Heights section?
We don't know that. The program that they got a notice of intent to award this evening, they've done a lot of work in the township over the past several years, and they were given, they came in as low bidder for the project that is what's called mill and overlay. So they're doing a lot of the work in area of Birch Valley, as well as some other areas of Farrell's Hills, roads that had been totally redone before, but many years ago now, just they need a new layer of asphalt on top, and so they're doing that project. But the other road program, the more full depth reconstruction, which will be in the Pennsbury Heights area, that hasn't gone out to bid yet, so we don't know if they'll be doing it or not. That depends on who comes in as the lowest bidder, quite frankly.
Okay. Does General Asphalt typically, in that situation, do they typically also do the aprons and the curbs and the driveways?
Well, that's part of the project. That's part of the project. If whoever gets the project does all of that with sidewalks, curbs, street, apron, whatever's required to do, when they're hired to do it, they do the whole program.
Okay.
Well, they may have subcontractors.
Well, right, yeah, they might have subcontractors, but
Not necessarily the same guy that did Pinewood
Correct.
is going
You're
to be
right.
doing yours. I mean,
I
whoever they hire, if they don't
understand
do it
that.
themselves, would be
Right.
doing it.
right, but they're the general contractor in charge. You're right. Thank you, Mr. Dents.
So, I mean, that being the case, that we haven't really decided on a contractor yet, do the residents have a say in the selection of the contractor regarding the quality
No.
of their work?
Now, Pennsylvania state law is very clear that as long as you are the lowest bidder, and our laws are actually a little stronger here in Falls to make sure you're a responsible bidder, stronger than in some other municipalities. If they come in as the lowest bidder, we would need a lot of proof that they are not responsible. But they basically would have had to have defaulted on our program somewhere else, not necessarily here, but somewhere else. We would have to say, well, look, you had a similar program in another township last year, year before, and you walked off the job. You didn't finish it. You did all these problems. You're out, which has been done, but it's pretty rare. The road program we have here is pretty aggressive, and so there are only a few companies that do the work in a way in which we expect it to be done. And General Asphalt has been the low bidder on quite a few projects for us.
So that sounds like a definitive no then? I mean, we as taxpayers don't have a say in...
State law is very clear. It doesn't matter if as long as they have been shown to do the work and do it pretty respectably, and they have, quite frankly. They've been pretty good contractors. That's the state law is very clear, and it's to prevent people from just giving it to their buddy's company. Here, hey, how about here's a couple $1 million, just do some roads for me. You don't want that, so you go out to bid so that it's open to anybody, and it's all secret bids, and the bids are open publicly. You actually can come to the bid openings if you want to. It's it's usually not well attended by the public, but it's always public. It's always done here in this room. It's
advertised.
It's advertised ahead of time, so you can come and listen to see who got the lowest bid, and that doesn't necessarily mean they've got it, because then the job goes to the engineer to make sure that all their I's are dotted, all their T's are crossed, they've done everything properly, they're bidding they're bidding on the right things, and there's nothing that's a little bit odd with the way they've conducted anything in terms of their bid documents.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a pretty rigid process in terms of what the state law requires.
Okay. My last question would be, what kind of arrangements or considerations, if any, are being made for the residents who have recently had curbs, aprons, sidewalks, and driveways replaced?
Well, one of the things that's been discussed just among board members, sort of informally, is, and we haven't as yet come to any kind of major decision on this yet, but there's a limit to what we can do. Certainly, we would be able to, reimburse someone for permit fees. We couldn't necessarily pay for everybody who had work done. Reimburse them for all the money they put out. But we could, if they filed a permit and they spent a amount of money on permit fees, we could reimburse the permit fees. That's a possibility. But there's a limit in terms of how far back we can go with that. I mean, the road program's been going on for, over a decade. Do we go back to someone in 19, or in 2002 who did a sidewalk and then someone came along? How far back do we go? That's a decision I don't think we necessarily made yet. I guess you see my point. How It's a slippery slope that once we start opening it up and everybody can come out and say, well, 10 years ago I did my road, and and now do we need proof of the receipt? We need proof of this. We need proof of that. It just becomes much more difficult to do. But I know the concern you have. It's a very good one. You just did your work last year,
Right. Yeah, it hasn't been a
and that's
year yet.
that's something that we're looking at in terms of going back a year maybe. And I don't know if any of the board members want to sort of chime in terms of discussion. Obviously, we don't have to make a decision right this moment, but Mr. Smith's been here a couple of times before, and I know we've discussed it just individually amongst ourselves, in conversations over the weeks about our ideas about this. And it is a slippery slope that we're trying to manage as best we can.
No, I think you described it pretty well in terms of what we might be able to do to reimburse people for work that was done, and then how far back, and that we haven't made any kind of decision on yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we are talking about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't forget about it yet.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep us informed to be fine.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Those are all the names I have on the list. All right. Oh, one more. Short, ma'am. Come on up. You can use the other one, ma'am. Or, got it? Okay.
I think so. Hello?
Okay.
I just want to say thank you, whoever called the PennDOT, where I had asked to put some fire under their barriers, because it was fixed within 2 or 3 days. And it is a much easier drive now on Lincoln Highway North. Let's put it that way. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know who did it, but that's all right.
Did you make that call, Mr. Gray? No? Okay. I think that might have just been, might have been good timing. Yeah, the coincidence. Yeah.
I did it. It was me. I'm kidding.
You sure? You're
Yes.
only kidding. Okay, then maybe they did it themselves. I don't know. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. Those are the names we have on the list. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Herbert. We're going to be moving on. Okay. Yeah, I know. That's a good thing. All right. We don't have any need for executive session. Manager comment. Mr. Gray?
Yes, just a few items tonight. First item is an escrow release request from Robin Van Leer, representing T-Mobile, located at 1200 Old Bristol Road. They currently have an escrow balance with the township of $3,226.50, and this project was closed January 22nd, 2010. At this time, the board is asked to consider this escrow release of $3,226.50. And that's a cash escrow release.
Okay. All right. Any comments or questions regarding this cash escrow release?
None, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there a motion then? By somebody. Would be a motion to release the escrow amount of $3,226.50 to T-Mobile, I guess it is? Right.
So moved.
Okay.
Yeah, second.
All right. Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen? Brilliant.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
My only other item tonight is a few announcements from the Park and Rec Department, from Bill Reese, Director of Park and Recreation. The Park and Rec Department continues to accept registrations for the summer camp program and the Pinewood Pool. Rain Skate Shop will be presenting 2 special events at the Falls Township Skateboard Park. The first will be held on Sunday, June 20th, starting at 5 p.m., and there will be demos by professional skaters. Skateboarders of all ages are welcome to attend and to participate. This is a free event. The second event will be held on Monday, June 21st, starting at 3 p.m. Rain Skate will have some of their own skateboarders come to show their skills, and there will be giveaways as well. Skateboarders of all ages are welcome to attend and participate, and this is also a free event. Anyone requiring additional information regarding Park and Rec events, feel free to call 215-949-9000, extension 220, 221, or 222. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, up to board comment. Mr. Dents, we'll start with you.
Yesterday, we had some nasty weather go through again, and I know a lot of people, again, lost power and stuff. I just wanted to remind people that residents can get on our website, and you can register for our emergency link. There's a link there. You can register with the township. If there was an emergency, you can be contacted by way of phone. There's also a link for Ready Now PA, which is a county-wide registry, so that you can be notified in case of an emergency. I know it was a big deal last winter, but people don't think about snowstorms until it's snowing. Yeah, a lot of people lost power, and Ready Now PA, what was the other one? Oh, he said, I talked to Mr. Markey, you need to use a landline or a cell phone. It doesn't work if you're using the Comcast Triple Play or Verizon. It won't work through your cable line for some reason. I guess because if your cable's out, that means that your phone's out. So I guess the best bet's to use your cell phone. And that's all I have. Oh, go Flyers. That's my other one.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Snipes.
No comment this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, I want to thank the American Legion Post, 834, for their another great Memorial Day parade, 64th one, I believe. They were Mr. Rovenalt and Evan Rovenalt, who organizes a parade and has done so for several years, was nice enough to give us some pens, which I had brought here this evening and given to Mr. Gray to give to board members, but apparently he took them home. One for each kid, I guess. But no, they are here. It was a very, very nice event. It was a nice day. It was, nice and sunny. It wasn't too hot, and it was a nice turnout of people. And so Mr. Snipes was there with the carriage, taking Dan Fraley, who is the Bucks County Veterans coordinator for veterans programs, rather. He was the Grand Marshal for the parade, and so it was a very, very nice way to kick off the unofficial summer. And so I want to thank them again for the invitation and for all the work they do, the American Legion Post. And also, just last thing, just to remind people in terms of our next meeting, which will be on the 15th, 2 weeks from tonight, that we will have traffic planning and design here. And Mr. Gray, if we could have this on the channel and on the website, just to let people know that traffic planning and design, our township traffic engineer specializing in traffic issues, they have come up with a couple ideas, concepts about the potential of putting some kind of pedestrian walkway on New Falls Road. It's an issue that has come up. Some people have been very much against it, some people very much for it. But these are just ideas. We're not going to be voting on it on that day. This is just purely informational. It's part of our regular meeting for that night. So we'll have a normal agenda, but we'll make that the first issue so that we can hear their presentation and people can come out and listen to their presentation, ask some questions and get some input, and then we'll go on with the rest of our agenda for that evening. And also just anticipating at our next meeting, we'll have to make a decision about meetings in July and August, assuming, as we have done in the past, that we'll go down to one meeting a month in July and August. It makes it a little easier to schedule. People going on vacations, it's sometimes difficult to have two meetings, and oftentimes, business slows down a little bit in the summertime with some of the issues we go through here at the township, and so we're looking forward to that too. But those are all the things I had to discuss this evening. Go Flyers, and hopefully the Phillies can wake up a little bit as well. Coming to the end of the school year, and as Mr. Dents usually says, he didn't say it tonight, but I will too. I'll say it for him. Reminder: watch out for children. More and more of them on the streets. The weather's getting nicer, and the school's almost out, and so you're going to see a lot more of them in the streets. So just be conscious of them as you're driving through your even if it's your neighborhood and you think you know everything there is to know about every street in your neighborhood. There's just no way to anticipate a kid running out after a ball or chasing something into the street and you don't see them. So just be careful, please, when you're out there driving. Okay? And with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
The chairman has adjourned this meeting of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors for June 1st, 2010. This is the Falls Township Governmental Access Channel 22 on Comcast and 40 on Verizon Fios.